Hey everyone, welcome to the Tom's Hardware Piecast for November 30th, 2021 or December 1st, depending on where you're calling in from. As always, I'm Editor-in-Chief Avram Pilch. I'm joined by Associate Editor Les Pounder, Raspberry Pi expert Ash Hill. Sorry. Usually when I've had sleep, I remember these things. And Cytron's engineer Ober Choo, our very special guest this week, to talk about just the breadth of products that Cytron has come out with, including a very new board that people haven't seen yet. So thank you so much for joining us from Malaysia, where it is 3:30 a.m. So this is December already for you. How is it in the future?
Right. It's warm over here.
Yes, I think it's warmer where you are than where I am, and where Les is, and probably where Ash is too. So anyway, can you tell folks a bit about yourself and about Cytron?
Okay. So, very good evening to YouTubers from UK, Europe, and very good afternoon to YouTubers from America. So my name is Ober Choo. I'm based in Penang, Malaysia. I've been working with Cytron's technology since my graduation. So we started with from a robot competition. Most of our all our founder is from club or robotic competition members committees. So we built a lot of robots during university time, and then after the competition, after a few time of competition, we started to build bots for others university, other students, and starting from there we become engineers, then form Cytron technology. So that is since 2000, I think 2005, 2006. I think SparkFun and Adafruit started at the same time, around that years also. Yeah.
I think your audio just went out.
Oh, really?
Now it's back.
Okay.
Now back.
Oh, okay. So that's great. What Cytron makes a lot of different kinds of boards. What's the range of the products that you guys make?
So we started to build robotic controllers, and I think Lash has one of the Maker Drive.
Yep.
Yeah. So we built a lot of motor drivers actually. So that is one of the version that we call Maker Series, where it's purple in color.
There you go. Yeah, Maker Drive is the first one I actually bought because it's the MX1508 motor controller, and I needed something like that, a simple unit, just to build a quick robot with some children I was working with at the time. And rather than going out and buying just a bare IC or an L298, something like that, I wanted something that was a module that the kids could actually work with straight away. And this works really well. And I love, this is a common theme on all the boards, the test buttons on the side. So when you've got a motor connected up and you want to just plug in a power source, if you want to check which way the motor is going to spin, which direction to travel, you can just press the buttons and test to see which way it's going to go. And without having to write a single line of code. And that's fantastic for debugging when kids are involved.
Yes, Les. Actually, that feature come from the robotic competition, because during robotic competition we always need to bring back or restore back the motors, and is very difficult to write it in code. So we need to have motor drivers to have manual control instead of you go and load another code just to restore the motors. So that features came from the competitions.
It's great because normally I'd work with the kids and say to the kids to write a few lines of code to make the motor go in one direction, and then we'd work out what direction that would be if we had two of those motors. Would the robot spin on a point, or would it go forward or backwards? But with this, we've just got a really nice way of just going straight in. That's why I bought two of them.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So why are all the Cytron boards purple? Is that who came up with that idea, and is that supposed to signal something?
Not all our board is purple, but what we call a maker series. So those board that start with makers, it will come with purples. So it's like beginner friendly features. Then the purple color signify that. So any board that come with purple from Cytron is actually under maker series. So maker series bring out the features that is beginner friendly. So for example, the other board is, I think it's Maker Uno, is Arduino Uno compatible board. So that we work with teachers. So if you look at from engineer point of view, Arduino is quite easy. But from student point of view or teachers that they don't have coding and electronic background, they will have some problem troubleshooting it. So after talking to teachers and students, they said, hey, why don't you guys put some indicators for all the digital I/O so that we don't need to connect anything, or even if we need connect anything, we can they can actually very fast know whether the program is working or the circuit is working. So that's where the Maker Uno come from. Yeah.
Wow, that's fantastic. So what are the so obviously you support Raspberry Pi and you support Raspberry RP2040. Are there any other platforms that you're doing boards for at the moment?
Yes, Raspberry Pi is one of it, Arduino. Then we are coming out with another new product, which is Maker Nano RP2040. So it's based on Raspberry Pi RP2040. So Lash is showing the diagram. So this is newly launched. We haven't mass produced it. So as you can see, the MCU is actually the Raspberry Pi RP2040. We break out to Arduino Nano form factor, but we are using a USB micro B as the USB port to power and to load program. Underneath it, we actually have two quick or Stemma QT compatible port, but we call it Maker port. One reason is because Quick and Stemma QT is I2T, I2C compatible module, but with RP2040, it's kind of compatible with all the others I/O. For example, you can actually remap it to become analog pin. You can remap it to become digital I/O, input output, PWM, and even some is UART. So we name it as Maker port. It's compatible with Quick or Stemma QT. If you have connected to change it to what we call Groove, you can actually use quite a lot of Groove module that have, let's say, analog input or PWM or even UART. So that's the Maker, that's the Groove port.
Oh, neat. So you actually have one of these new boards to show us. So we'll zoom in on that.
Yeah. So I have here, so I have here, this is the new board. I program it using Arduino IDE. So this is the serial monitor. Connect to a Wi-Fi. This is ESP12F. So I connect it to one of the Maker ports or the Quick or the Stemma QT port. Then I program it to connect to my Wi-Fi and grab the internet time. And I can actually change the mode by a button over here. So this is actually a running light. Running lights can change. So this is the NeoPixel. I can change back to display the time and date. So obviously, my time is 3:40 and December.
Yep. So that's really neat. So you're able to actually get Wi-Fi over the maker port, which is really cool.
Yep.
That is cool. So that maker port, is it the same connection as Stemma QT, or is it a different connection?
It's the same as Stemma QT or Quick from SmartFun.
Yeah. So I could get a Stemma QT or Quick product and plug it straight into the board with no adapter cable.
Yes, no adapter cable needed. Yes, but good. For this case, we are using a Groove connector over here. So we will have a Stemma QT or Quick connector to Groove connector.
That's handy. I think I've just bought some from Pimoroni in the sale last week.
Oh, okay.
That was very good timing.
Yeah. Wow. So that's one way to get. That's pretty cool because that's another way to get Wi-Fi. Yeah. To get Wi-Fi on your RP2040. Yep. So what type of Wi-Fi board did you connect that to?
This is our own Wi-Fi board. Yeah, this is based on ESP12F or ESP8266.
Ah, the classic.
And it's loaded. Yeah, it's loaded with newer firmware. It's version 2.2.0 from Expressive. Yeah.
Wow, fantastic. So, how do you see these boards being used primarily for students, or do you see it being used in robotics?
Our target is definitely is beginner, but as we know, a lot of students is beginner, and of course makers welcome to use it, and a lot of makers actually love it.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot you can play with over there. The light is almost a Larson scanner. It's almost like Knight Rider, but blue. I think it's great you built a buzzer in as well. So that's another thing, another output people can get without having to attach a buzzer. I don't know of too many boards that come with a buzzer, built right onto the board like that.
Yep.
Yeah, it's useful because you've got all these toys on the board, all the LEDs that light up to show the status, the NeoPixels and the buzzers. It's something that kids can get immediate response from, so they can get feedback that says that they're doing a good job and they're enjoying what they're doing without having to mess around with wiring. So breadboard wiring is an essential skill to learn as a maker. But for a young kid, having to learn breadboarding, electronics, code, and then a microcontroller, it's just a lot to learn in one go.
It really is. Plus, I don't know about you guys, but whatever jumper wires I have, inevitably it'll look like they're plugged into the breadboard, and then it'll be a little bit loose. So, when you can be able to trigger something or test something, it's definitely a big plus. So how many boards does Cytron have now in the Maker series?
I guess Les has most of it, more than mine over here. Yeah.
So we got let's see. Of actual SBCs or microcontrollers, we've got 3 on the table that I can see right now. There's a 4th one that I forgot to get out the box before the show started because I was so excited about a heating engineer being here, which is the one that connects to the Raspberry Pi, which is your latest one, which is really nice. That's one that connects to the GPIO and breaks it out for use with a hat or a breadboard. But also you can play with the pins and hack any hats that are on the board, and that's quite a nice feature. Because in the past, you've only really had Pimoroni and a couple other people who've had like hacker boards to mess around with the hat. But this one is just a little bit more, just elevates it more than what Pimoroni had. And it's really nice to see. Plus, it's also cheap And educators and children and families just like cheap electronics to get going with. There we go, it's on the screen. But lovely little board. I also like the Grove connections on the side. I've sort of developed a fascination over the last year, probably, with Grove and stemmer connections and that sort of thing. In fact, I must be giving at least half my paycheck to Adafruit per month just to buy stemmer QT boards.
At least everything's all compatible.
Well, that's it, yeah, because the stemmer QT format is pretty much I2C. So if you've got a driver for I2C for that board, you're laughing. And especially with CircuitPython, it just works.
Yeah, that is really nice. Russell says the maker hat for the Pi 400 looks really nice. So,
yeah, Russell, we've got a review on Tom's Hardware. Have a read.
Yes, we have a review of a lot of these boards, if not all of them. So Ober, what do you do in this process? Do you design the board? Do you test the software? What's your role in creating these boards?
I'm part of the committee to decide to discuss about the features. So the features that we need to put in and discuss with the user. So before we pass down the requirement to engineers to design it, we need to come out with a whole list of features. Yeah.
Wow, fantastic.
So who are the people that you actually speak to, Ober? Is it educators? Is it children? Is it the general populace, and just get information and ideas from them?
The community, yes, the community. So teachers, students. Student is part of our user also. Teachers is another group of user, very big group, especially in Malaysia. Malaysia, especially this year, the primary school started to have syllabus of digital making, which have the learning of electronic and also coding inside their syllabus. That's for primary school.
Primary school, that's great.
Yes.
What are the kids using for those lessons? What computer or what hardware?
So inside the textbook, they have microbit and also Arduino, both of that. So they can actually choose.
That's good. Microbit is popular in the UK. It was a few years ago when it came to 2015. It came out and it had a big impact on the scene because it was so immediate and so easy to use for children. So it's good to see it being used in Malaysia. But Arduino, the classic, everyone's got an Arduino. I've got a box full of Arduinos, and that's a scary thing to say out loud. And there's another one on the way as well, the new limited edition one. But it's interesting that kids can get access to cheap electronics now to do wonderful things like building robots or building sensor platforms and that, because I'm an old man now. When I was a kid, we didn't have these cheap computers. We had the really expensive computers, and you wouldn't dream of plugging anything into a parallel port or a serial port like this.
Yes, agree.
Yeah, it is amazing the kinds of things that my son gets to play with for inexpensively, right? That, if he broke it, which they're hard to break anyway, but if he broke it, not like when we were kids, if you broke the $3,000 IBM PC, you would be in big trouble. So it's definitely a great time to be a learner. So what are some of the other things you'd like to be working on, you'd like to be doing? What are some of the other things you want to come out with in the future?
We are looking at more Raspberry Pi related product. So the first one, the coming one is the Arduino Nano RP2040. I think the estimated shipping time will be end of December or early of January next year for this the board that I showed just now. We are still tidying up the documentation, then finalizing all the design before we move for the mass production.
Anything with built-in wireless? Are you guys thinking about doing anything with built-in wireless?
Not yet, but we are looking at IoT. next year is we might focus in IoT.
Russell asks, any plans for a Pico board with built-on level shifter and 9-pin D-type connector on the default UART?
Wow.
It's very specific.
Russell, that's some old school hacking there. Level shift and a 9-pin D-type. That's 9-pin serial, I'm guessing. So he's going to be messing around with that. Russell, what are you hacking?
I guess this is RS232, right?
I would guess so, yeah.
Russell says, people seem to ignore UART's serial boards these days. For I2C and UART are so easy for a lot of things.
Yeah,
Interesting.
It's true. Yes, serial comms are often overlooked because it's such a USB and I2C world we live in now. But serial it's been there since the dawn of time in computers, and it'll be there long past we're all dead.
I would bet that there's ways of doing this with an adapter of some kind. But I mean, I suppose there are a lot of older things that people work with that still use these, right? I mean, the retro community, you might be working with a retro computer. You might be doing. Oh, Russell says, lots of great things, but great for me, Chris, Stellaris plus printers and thermal printers. Yeah, like point of sale systems. I think there's still a lot of point of sale systems that use those interfaces. So yeah, I mean, people do. Every day we are finding people who have taken some older tech and are using it with these electronic projects. So it's pretty neat. That is really cool. So speaking of projects, Ash, you have a project that you're working on that is pretty cool, especially during this holiday season.
Yeah, since the holidays are right around the corner, I thought it would be fun to share a project with LEDs because we're all busy decorating. And this one is this is a project that somebody else has developed, so you can find it on GitHub right now and check it out. I thought that would be easier for everybody because you can get started right away. But here it is. It's it allows you to make an LED strip flicker in response to audio in real time. So if you're playing music, the lights will flash to the beat as it's detected. And I thought this was cool also, not just because it uses the Raspberry Pi, but if you wanted to use an ESP8266, it also works with that. But you will need something to capture audio via USB if you're using a Raspberry Pi. So you could use a microphone, or if you have a sound card to plug in, anything that will send the audio to the Pi so it can detect the music. It'll use that to trigger the response on the LEDs. So the full source code is available on Scott Lawson BC's profile. I'm going to get this link sent over really quick to Avram if you want to put it up for anybody who's interested. But you can find it over at GitHub, and you will need a string of individually addressable LEDs for this to work. But it looks so neat. Let me scroll down. There's a quick a demo of what it looks like in action. And it kind of reminds me of if you would ever listen to music on the PC back in the day, they had different effects you could do to visualize the music, and you could just pick through different ones depending on whatever media player you're listening to. But it reminded me a lot of that. So if you could imagine a wall full of these, I think you could go crazy. But since it's the holidays, set this up on your front porch, play a little Christmas music or whatever holiday music you like, and you've got a dazzling light show just ready to go.
That is cool.
I thought so too.
I really like that. And if you're using a Pi, well, I mean, you can do anything with an audio output. Sonic Pi, the way you can write music in code.
Yeah.
That would be fantastic because you could have the output going straight to this, and you could see your music in lights as you live code it. That'd be brilliant.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I was just going to ask, what type of lighting would you recommend for if you wanted to put that up on a wall in your house? What type of product would you recommend for lighting it?
I think they recommended the WS2812 LEDs. I think that's the right kind. But just an LED strip is what it's intended to work with. WS2812B.
Have any of you worked with a particular strip that you like? Because when I bought them, they're kind of always a little bit flimsy, and for hanging on the wall, it seems like mounting could be could be an issue.
So whenever I play with LED strips, I like to get cheap ones from Walmart so they're not individually addressable, but they always come with little microcontroller boxes, and you can take those off and put a Pico on it and play with that. But they're always, the ones I get are always like double-sided sticky. I have one right here actually, and I've never actually stuck it to anything because I don't feel like it would actually hold up. If I peel that tape off, it'll just get, dust on it. You can see it's a little separated there. So I don't have a good one on hand, but if you're going to go this route, be prepared to get something more industrial to hold it up.
Yeah, the glue on the back of those reacts with the heat from the lights, and it just slowly peels off, and your lights just sort of fall down over time.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. It's difficult to mount, but then there are the ones you can get that are in the rubber the translucent rubber casing.
This at least has like something covering it on top. It's hard to tell; it's so blurry. It does have something thick over top, like a clear plastic, but you can access those pins so easily with a Pico.
Yeah, and you can cut them in certain lengths as well, can't you? Because they've got little cut points on them.
Yep, like right along that little part right there. They all split.
Yeah, so that's probably easier than all of the ones that I threw away on where did I have it? I was working on a thing a while back, right, with those type of lights where I'd soldered them, right, and this was a robot my son and I were working on. Now it's a little bit taken apart because he wanted to do something else with it. But we had run all of the lights through this, and it was one of the biggest challenges for me was cutting these properly with a scissor to where we could actually solder onto the pads without where there was enough like exposed metal that we could solder it onto the pad without and like inevitably I could never cut them perfectly, so like one side would get messed up and I'd have to throw out a pixel or throw out a light, but because I'd have to cut it wider on one than another. So go figure. I mean, I guess the best lesson I learned from this was to put heat shrink tubing over the ends so that it would at least protect it. So
that is a must-have.
Yes. So there was definitely that, which is really cool. I mean, this is coming up a really good season for. Somebody says you can get a small ALU channel for the strips.
Aluminium channel for the strips, so you can put the lights in that, and you can use hot glue to hold them in place, so it all looks nice and neat and tidy.
That's what I need, something like that, because I would love to hang them on the wall, but if they're going to start falling over, obviously not.
Russell says to use alien IV tape. He says that would probably work. I'm not familiar with that though.
That's a new one on me.
Yeah.
Yes.
We need to stick things together and see how it goes.
Get that in diffusers. Somebody should make like an easily wall hangable strip that you can control.
That's what people should probably want anyway. Like most people buying them want to hang them up somewhere, like around the borders of rooms and stuff.
Right, or on your desk or things like that. So
the dash of your car.
That's a cool project. Very cool. Well, there's a lot of cool projects that folks can do, and there's a lot of them that they can do now that are made a lot easier thanks to Cytron. So what is the best place folks can go over if they want to learn more about Cytron or buy some of these Cytron boards?
So they can go to our website. It's www.cytron.io. IO is input output.
Very, very, very cool. So definitely.
Is everyone based in the UK? I can say this because I bought from there. The Pi Hut. Cytron in the UK. So that's where I got my Maker Drive from.
Yep. Very cool. Well, I want to thank everybody for tuning in. As always, you can find us here at 7:30 p.m. UK time, 2:30 p.m. US Eastern time, and 3:30 in the morning the next day on Malaysia time. We would love to have more folks from Malaysia tuning in. But if not, if 3:30 in the morning is an odd hour for you, we are always on YouTube. So come check us out. Thank you so much to Ober for joining us, and we will see you all next week. Bye, everyone.